This is the book to read if you wanted to become best friends with a rock star. Because that's what this book is. If you feel like Dave Grohl is an extended member of your family by the end of this book. So what's been going on, man?
12 hours days in a hospital, 15-hour days on the farm. Pretty much it.
I'm not a mathematician, but I feel like those hours. That's a lot, bud. That's a lot.
Whatever. We've had it for a while. It's a farm on Cub, and a couple years ago, someone cut the gas lines and stole all the gas out of it.
Oh, nice.
So I finally just went and loaded up on the trailer. That was a debacle. Anyway, I loaded up on the trailer and got it home, and I've just been working on it here and there. And there's a couple of things that I knew I was going to have to do, like rebuild the carburetor and stuff like that, which I actually haven't had to rebuild it. I just took it off and cleaned it, and it cranked. And before I got it cranked, I did the greenhorn move and, for whatever reason, hooked the positive on the negative terminal of the battery and burned all the wires out.
My God.
So I had to rewire it. And then Dad broke the button inside the distributor. So I had to luckily Tractor Supply just has them.
Good.
And it still wouldn't work, so I just rebuilt the distributor, and that's probably also happened whenever I blew up all the wires, turned all the wires into smoke.
Turned it into a giant heater, basically.
Yeah. And then it cranked, and I drove it around, and now the starter doesn't work. So fun stuff. Always something, but that's fine. The little Alice Chalmers, it messed up, and so these tractors are made in the 50s. The Farmall was a 53. I don't remember what exactly the year on the Alice Chalmers, but the Alice Chalmers isn't running right, and I'm pretty sure I know what the problem is. It's just a bunch of trash in the gas tank because the gas tank's trying to rust out. So we'll be fixing it soon.
So it's just sputtering and not really wanting to give you the power that you're used to.
Well, it wants to run really, really well for about 10 minutes, and then it just stops, and you have to wait. And it just seems like it's just not getting gas. Yeah. And I've changed the fuel filter 2 or 3 times in the last 2 months, and it just keeps happening. So I'm just going to drain all the gas out of it.
You'll get it there.
Yeah, whatever.
God, I'd like to get to that point where I could actually do anything like that. I've got a few plants on the back deck, like some squash and cucumbers, stuff like that, and had my first squash starting to grow, and went out there. We were talking about it on the back deck, just had a little fire going, and looked over at it, and it was gone. You gotta be kidding me, man. I'm taking up all this room on the back deck just to try to protect these plants from, whatever. And they're still coming up there and they're eating the one vegetable I had growing so far this year. All right, great. I see how this is gonna go. Yeah, what's your trick for? Are you a aluminum pan? Or sorry, not aluminum pan, but yeah, it is aluminum pan. Are you that guy that sticks the little aluminum pans out in your field, or what's your go-to for keeping pests out of your plants?
Chemicals.
That'll do it.
Lots of chemicals. No, I spray twice a week. I spray two different pesticides. because you're not supposed to put each pesticide has like a certain amount that you're supposed to put that you're supposed to apply it to a plant.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What about like squirrels, rabbits,
I don't
stuff
have a
like
problem
that?
with squirrels. Is your camera cut out?
Uh, it's still going on my side.
Oh, okay. Um, I don't have a whole lot of problem with pests, except for predators trying to eat my ducks. Um,
Yeah, did you ever figure out what was going on there?
um, yeah,
Hmm.
we'll talk about it later. That's
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
one of those things you don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Sure.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, strays are a problem in my
Mm.
neighborhood.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, yeah. Get the old. I have animal protective services, which is not. But yeah, fun stuff. Um, and I'm pretty sure at one point it was a fox, and we saw the fox, but I mean, it's hard for me to do anything about a fox.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my God. I woke
They're
up
too
the other
pretty.
yeah. Woke up the other morning. I was down in the kitchen. I think I was like washing some dishes or something like that. And I look up and there's a freaking coyote standing out right in front of the house.
Oh, kill him.
Oh God, bro. I mean, I couldn't. You know, my daughter's asleep. My mother-in-law is asleep across the street. Like, this was like 5 something in the morning. So it's like the first gun I would have grabbed would have been the freaking 7.62.
Oh
So
yeah,
it wouldn't have been quiet by any means.
yeah.
You
I
know.
did kill a water moccasin. Um,
'Tis the season, huh? We're already there.
yeah, and it was one of the things. My wife saw it, and then my mom saw it, and then my wife saw it again and was like, "Go get the gun! It's a snake! He's swimming in the pond." So me like frantically running around the pond like twice trying to get a shot at the snake. But yeah, fun stuff, fun things. But yeah, as far as like growing, I've planted almost the whole acre. I have a little bit left, and Dad wants to grow it in sunflowers just for the
Mm.
doves. But I think I think I'm gonna do an experiment. I've got some sweet corn seed left over.
Mm.
So, and basically, what this part of the field we're just gonna like broadcast and then rake it a couple of times to cover the seeds up and just see what happens. But I've got some sweet corn that I'm gonna throw out there too. And I don't know if I'm gonna do the sweet corn because I was thinking about buying some actual popcorn like in the plastic tub,
Uh-huh.
the corn kernels, and throwing that out there and seeing if it grows.
Oh, I doubt it.
It will. There's a guy I follow and he made a chaotic garden in just his little section. He just like bought peas and stuff from like the dried
Uh-huh.
dehydrated beans and stuff like that, and you just throw it out there and they grew.
Incredible. Oh, this
Yeah.
chair. This chair is up, bro. That's gonna ruin this recording, but I will. That's the hotel life. Not a whole lot I
Yep.
can do about it.
Nah.
Oh
Um.
man.
So how'd you feel about the book, man?
Yeah. You know, I really didn't have high hopes for this book. I'm gonna be completely honest. All right. When you think about it, all right, hear my perspective on starting this book. It's like some washed up, 60-year-old, musician that is doing something to just milk a little bit of extra money out of the back nine of his career. Because I, to be completely frank, did not exactly have this obsession with Dave Grohl like some of our peers. You know, like I respected him. I knew he was a good drummer. I knew that he could sing well. I knew he had like this just incredible career, you know, but he wasn't my favorite. You know, I didn't, I couldn't, I thought the Fresh Pots video was hilarious or interesting when that was a thing, you know, but so I really didn't. Yeah, I really didn't think it. I thought, well, maybe maybe we'll get some cool stories out of it. And bro, this book is incredible. This book is incredible, man. Like what a seemingly like just genuinely good dude. A guy that you would just absolutely be best friends with. Like just listening to this guy, it's like you can't help but like love him for who he is. You know, it just seems so genuine.
Yeah. I was kind of the same way because, like, back when we were growing up, right, it was the whole, like, new metal and grunge kind of stuff, right? That's kind of what
Mm-hmm.
we were listening to.
Yep.
So I never really listened to Foo Fighters a whole lot. I always liked their singles and everything that they put out. Um, but yeah, about 3 years ago was when I started kind of getting into them, and I still haven't listened to the whole uh, discography,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But like I've listened to a lot, and it was one of those things to where he says it in this book, and that's when it like clicked. Is he talks about when they started writing in Studio Six. I think it was towards the end of the book when he's talking about writing one of the albums in Studio 606 and the new metal's coming out. And at that time, I was listening to like a lot of Deftones, kind of
Yep.
Deftones Tool kind of deal. And he straight up says I wanted to go in a completely different route and
Yep.
focus on melody.
Yep.
And but yeah, now like of course I listened to Nirvana growing up because that's what dad had. Dad had the Nirvana, the Money Banks of Wishka album. And I probably pronounced that wrong, but that's what dad raised me on was like that and Alice in Chains and some Van Halen and stuff like that. So um I was expecting something decent, but yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Um, and there's a lot of I don't want to say this because I'm by no means comparing my life to his, but did you a lot of parallels
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
just to be relatable. Like a lot of I've not met a lot of bands, um, but like the first time that I ever met Periphery, um, and I've met him 2 or 3 times. Like that, I'm about that was Misha. That was Misha Mansour. What? And like he freaks out about everything, and you like think that he's a big rock and roll, but he doesn't see himself that way. He's just a everyday guy, you know.
Yeah, and really, man, like you take a step back and look at the career he's had, it's like he is rock and roll.
Yeah,
He is rock and roll. He's the sleeper of rock and roll. He has had the most incredible career. I mean, well before Nirvana, like he had already established himself in a circle that was, you know, enshrined in the history of music, you know.
yeah. So he started with the band Scream, right? That's he was in another band or whatever, but Scream was where he toured with, and
Yep.
I thought it was really interesting because you um I don't really know. I don't get into a lot of the newer bands or anything like that. I haven't really followed up, but you can see that his music career was that old school grind.
Yep.
Where you're touring out of a bus, which sucks. Right. I've never had that experience. I've never been in a band.
God, not a
But
bus, a freaking passenger van.
yeah. Yeah. a van, not a bus. But that, and he did it for years, you
Yep.
know, and living that kind of lifestyle where you don't know if you're gonna get a good night's sleep where you stop at or where your next food is or anything like that. And uh, he has said this in an interview before. But one of the things to where, like, whenever you want to start a band, you don't go to America's Got Talent. You start in your garage.
Right.
And I'm not saying anything bad about America's Got Talent. I care less one way or the other. Um, but yeah, that's the way I feel. It's like if you want to write music, just write music.
Right. Right. And that's probably the biggest thing about this book is it is certainly inspiring. Right. Like he absolutely put, the work in and was willing to just grind it out for the love of music. That was his big thing, is like it could have been Nirvana or it could have been Scream, and either way he would have been happy. It was obvious that he was, doing exactly what he needed to do with his life. And like it just like it, of course it made me think about, when I was young and trying to make it. And I really, like, he said one part that I did not like, and I can't direct quote it, but like he was basically saying, like, if he didn't do music, he was just destined to do manual labor for the rest of his life. And you know me, man, because like I thought the exact same thing. That's like, I couldn't be happier with what I'm doing now, which started out as manual labor, you know. And I've got this guy that I'm going to sit down with pretty soon. He had a successful career. He was a guitarist for this band, Ghost. And is that the name of the band? I don't think it was Ghost. I don't think it was Ghost.
I'm about to say Ghost is pretty big.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Ghost. It wasn't Ghost. Why is my phone insisting on doing shit? I gotta tell you who he is now, because I'll be playing a clip. And I've already embarrassed myself on it, but like I gotta save this at least. And I'm sorry, bro. It was a hardcore band back in, like, 2006, that era. And I'm gonna be so embarrassed when I actually see the name. And
Every Time I Die. I
God, I
think they're still
wish.
making albums, dude. I love it. Oh Lord.
Oh God, Ghost, the Ghost Inside, the Ghost
Oh, okay.
Inside. Yeah,
Okay.
so still a really good band, and so he had a decent career doing that. Touring the world, playing music, and uh, I'm already telling this story, but whatever. Had a daughter, and chose to like focus on being a father over that career, and
Mm-hmm.
he made that decision. He went into that life, and like he still writes music. He still records music, and he's been a part of his daughter's life. And he works for, one of the biggest and best companies in, his industry. Uh, I don't know. It's I don't want people to be illusioned and thinking like, if you don't make it as a musician, you can't have a fulfilling life. You can be a musician, have a successful career, write fulfilling music, put like your music out there, build a fan base. You don't have to achieve this Dave Grohl level of success in order to, feel fulfilled, and being able to create whatever your craft is, especially music. I don't know, man. If I had this, when
I
I was
don't
18.
think I don't think that he personifies that though. Because
No,
like,
no, no,
have
no.
you it like really listened to like Queens of the Stone Age was kind of different whenever they
Mm-hmm.
came out. Um, but such an awesome band. And then um, have you listened to them Crooked Vultures?
Man, I did. I couldn't tell you a single song they did. Probably
I
wouldn't even
can't
like.
either. I just remember listening to it one day when I was mowing the yard and just being like, this is interesting, but far from mainstream. And I feel like that's kind of what the message that I've always gotten from Dave Grohl. Now that I sit down and I started thinking about it, is that's what it is. It's not about what other people are doing. It's about what do you want to do. And it just so happened that what he wanted to do made him successful.
Yep. Yep. And it was. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I get that. I just. Yeah. I just. I don't know, man. If I could have understood, like I could go ahead and start a career and get some decent money coming in, instead of like I have to be the starving musician because I have to be committed to my craft. That's the mentality that I had, and like I would have actually been able to be more successful in my craft if I actually had some money coming in from a real freaking job, you know. That's all. That's all. But man, the book is incredible. Dave Grohl is incredible. Like he just in reading this book, he became one of my best friends, and I can't wait to hang out with him again. Which is kind of cool because I wonder if he still has property out in Corolla.
I don't know. Um,
I think we have to go on a field trip now.
yeah, I'm
Let's go. Let's go to Corolla and find Dave Grohl. Take him fishing with us.
yeah, because it's not that far, not from us.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
I just I bought a Harker's Island skiff on Cape Carteret last weekend, so I was getting closer.
Did
What?
you just say Carteret?
Yes, it did.
Uh,
How do you call it?
it's Carteret.
No, I don't think it is. It ain't
It,
Cape Carteret.
I, right, but you have to think about where I live at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's a different family
yeah.
though.
I'm just saying it's spelled the
Carteret.
same because
Mm-hmm.
I've had some patients and I'm like, hey, Mr. Carteret, and they immediately like are mad and correct me. And I'm like, what are you correcting me for? My name is McPherson. And he's like, no, it's not. Did you say that McPherson? I'm
Mm-mm.
like, they're interfering McPherson, kind of deal. Well, whatever. I could care
That's funny.
less.
That's funny. Cool area though, man.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's a major small. Oh my god, I had such an experience leading up to this getting this boat too, man. Because like the whole thing was like I initially set out to get a motor for my John boat, right? Like that was the whole reason why I even started looking. I didn't want to buy a new one, you know. And so I'm looking, and it's like, well, shit, man. For what everybody wants for outboard, I can just buy a whole boat for like $300 more, $500 more, you know. And so I found this. They had painted it white, and you know me, man. I don't hunt. I don't need a camouflage John boat. I just want to be on the water, right? And they had painted this one white, so I don't think like everybody was jumping on it, because it was obviously that it was a home paint job, white. And God Almighty, man, I should show some screenshots of just trying to communicate with this dude. Like the poor guy. I'm not exactly sure if he was all there. Like still, like poor. I think he needs some help. But the reason why I bring this up is like I wanted the boat, but like we couldn't come to terms, right? And we're finally like, whatever. We're just not going to make a deal. And so I find this old skiff, this Harker's Island. And I love a Harker's Island skiff, man. I just love how historic they look. And it's like, all right, I'm going to just go ahead and get that one. So I run up there, do the deal super fast. I've got my daughter with me, so it's got to be like super fast. I can't even check over the boat really well, which is a separate story, but we won't go into that now. So hook up the boat in my truck, and we're heading back. And I didn't turn my damn camera on. I should have, because like I'm coming over a boat, coming out of the island, or coming over a bridge, coming out of the island, and I look right next to the bridge, and what do I see? I see that stupid white John boat sitting right there in the water with somebody fishing in it. And it's like, man, what are the odds of like I travel a decent distance away from my house to buy a boat, and on the way back from buying that boat, I passed the boat that started the whole damn thing in the first place.
That's nice.
That's nice.
Not to get further away from the book itself, but me and my friend was talking today about boats and trucks, and I was like, I think it's funny, and the whole thing come up was like someone said something. We have a person at work, and I love her to death, but she just likes to state the obvious a lot of the times, which can get tedious when you're trying to have a conversation.
Right.
But she was just talking about people living in a trailer. There's nothing wrong with living in a trailer. First of all, I could care less, but some people decide to do that because it's easier.
God, I lived in one for at least half my life.
Yeah, and like whatever. But she was talking about people living in like a single wide trailer, but then they have a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 deep sea boat, and I'm like, yeah, but what if it's like a really nice trailer? Like what if the roof doesn't leak and it has an air conditioning, like, and it has
like central air, not even a window unit, but central air.
Yeah. What if it just keeps you warm, and that's what you want in life because you want to go fishing every day in your life? Like that's not whatever.
That's a person that has their priorities figured out.
Yeah, but I looked at the buddy that I work with and that I hunt with, and I was like, dude, I just realized that the boat that I go duck hunting with, in like my boat, is probably worth more money than my truck. And he just starts laughing. He's like, it is.
Mm-hmm.
So like whatever.
Yeah, man, that's the thing though, is like, what are your priorities? I'm starting to realize that, like, I don't need sure, I mean, if I've got enough money to not worry about it, I'd own a $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 boat, $1 million boat if I had that kind of money. But you know what kind of money I need to have to justify having a $300,000 boat or $100,000? Like, I gotta have at least 20 million sitting in the bank before I'm buying anything like that. Otherwise, man, I'll stick with a freaking flats boat or a little skiff or a John boat. Like,
if I could find people that are either brave enough or stupid enough to go with me, I'm 100% fine in my kayak going offshore.
I'm not.
Like around a mile or so.
Oh man. Yeah, I've done it. I did it up in New England, but I didn't go that far out. Not that far out. Hell no. But that was a decent trip. That was decent, watching the fish swim underneath me and not catching any of them.
Yeah. Well, it's people keep freaking out about it, but I'm like, I just want to fish like past the breakers. Mm-hmm. That's all I want to do on the beach. And I watch people, if you go out on the beach and you're there, especially the beaches around here, if you're out there for longer than an hour, you're gonna see someone not even in a nice kayak, just paddling, 20, 30 feet from where the breakers are.
Yep.
And I'm like, like I could do that at mine, whatever.
You gotta bring that thing up. You gotta get that John boat fixed up.
Oh, the 14-foot double wide?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sometime whenever I'm done working on tractors and whatnot. Yeah, right.
Never. What motor would you put on that thing?
Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
100% honest.
Yep.
Um, I just want something small. I want like a 20 horsepower.
Shoot, that sounds right sized to me. I was even wondering if my John boat would handle that 20 horsepower that I got.
That 14-foot double wide, we've always had a 25 Johnson.
That two
Um,
stroke though, wouldn't that be lighter?
yeah, two stroke, old stuff. I've
Mm.
got a 30 on it now, but that motor I do not trust. It's the one that threw me out with
Yeah.
the, so I don't trust it. Um, I would even be okay. And the more I look at them, I'm like, I kind of want it, but one of those 5 horsepower propane motors.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. I looked at that for a second. Yeah, for the solo skiff.
But I see that boat as being the one that like my son like ends up taking and going brim fishing with in the river
Yep.
because that's what that boat is for.
God, we
Flounder
need to do
gigging
that.
and yeah,
I would love to go just brim fishing. Or
I haven't been fishing
crappie.
in a year and a half, so
We gotta change that.
yep.
I've seen at least 4 or 5 people in the past week or so fishing behind my house. It's like, man, I haven't fished in a couple years now.
Yeah, and like I have ponds behind my house, so like me and the kids go out there fishing, and um, I don't I don't consider that fishing just because it's on my property. But Henry Henry told me that he wanted to start catching big fish, so I put a jig with a paddle tail on it. And sure enough, he caught like a pound and a half, 2 pound bass,
Nice.
100% by himself.
Nice.
Little 3-year-old. I'm
Oh
like,
my God.
that's it, boy. Get him.
Oh, he's gonna be addicted.
Oh yeah. Oh, um, and I'm very proud of my daughter right now because she had a tooth that was loose
Mm.
and was like freaking out about it, like losing her mind. And I just told her, I was like, listen, no one is going to touch that tooth unless you tell us to. Like, I remember when my sister had her first tooth pulled and dad wrestling her into the floor and prying her mouth open and grabbing the tooth and snatching it out. And I'm like, I'm not doing that with my kids. Like, that's not going to happen. So we like talked about it and everything, and she's just in tears crying. And then all of a sudden, I'm just like, listen, just does it hurt? And she's like, yeah, when I eat. And I'm like, okay. So this is what we're going to do. You're going to decide when you want to pull it. You can either pull it yourself or I can pull it. And yesterday afternoon, she was like, Daddy, will you pull my tooth?
Oh,
And I was like,
man.
right now? And she said, yeah, when we get back to the property. And I'm like, why can't we do it now? And she's like, because we're at the road now. I don't want people to see. And so, like, yeah, I just popped the tooth out. And I was like, did that hurt? And she was like, no. And she's like, all smiling. It's in a tooth.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so brave with that little girl.
That is such a big part of this book too, man.
Yeah. A lot of, I mean, the first real chapter, DNA doesn't lie. And he straight up talks about his kid coming up to him and being like, Daddy, will you teach me drums?
God almighty. I just like, and that's like, we've talked about this. That's the whole thing, is like, I want to learn anything that she could possibly want to learn before she asked me. That way, like, I just want to feel that. If my daughter were to come up to me and say, I want to learn guitar or drums, like, how cool would that be? How much fun would that be to be able to teach your daughter, like, how to play an instrument? Oh my God, that sounds incredible. Or how to surf or whatever she wants to do. I don't care what it is. I just want to know how to do it. That way, I can help her get started and then watch that grow, you know? Hmm. He seems like a
So,
really good dad. He's an incredible dad, really, is what
right.
this book's about. Being
Yeah.
an incredible dad.
Um, but I mean, the reason why he's such an incredible dad is the relationship he had with his mom, right?
And his dad.
Yeah. Yeah, towards the end after they
Well, no, just in general,
made up.
right? Like because he's he knew at least some things that he didn't want to happen in his own relationship with his children that he experienced with his dad. Right. So that at least was a learning experience for him on what not to do, you know. And then yeah, like
Yeah.
later on, of course, like and that's an interesting one, man. And that's it's a useful tool that he used, which is like he basically let go of any kind of expectation of his father. You know, that was ultimately how, if I remember correctly, that was how he was able to, you know, finally develop this relationship with his father that was one that was beneficial, meaning they were able to actually have a relationship, a positive one, um, after he let go of any kind of expectations of his father, basically.
Yeah, I think it was the chapter You'd Better Be Good, when he goes to tell his mom, I'm gonna join a band and tour, and he's
Mm-hmm.
talking about Scream, and his mom's just like, you better be good.
Right.
And he goes and tells his dad, and his dad is like, you're probably gonna do all the other bad stuff that kids shouldn't be doing, like smoking and drinking coffee.
Yeah. Right.
Which
What?
he just told him. He was like, yeah, dad, I smoke and I drink coffee. And like as he's leaving, his dad's like, you better not do drugs. And he
Mm.
said that was like the time that he realized, because it didn't hurt him, right?
Mm.
It didn't bother him.
Man, what a good book. I was a bit envious, you know, like because like I totally wanted that life at one point during my life. You know, like growing up like as a kid, you know, it wasn't pillows. My drum set wasn't pillows. It was pots and pans. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and my parents took me to like got all kinds of festivals. I can't remember exactly what it was called. There was this giant festival in the river down in Charleston, and like Merle Fest, and like um God, like shows like the Eagles Hell Freezes Over tour in like 1994, you know. So like I got all this exposure to that culture as a kid, and like, oh my God, like I was just totally indoctrinated with like documentaries on you know the biggest rock stars of, you know, the 60s and 70s 80s. I'll never forget like the Leonard Skinner VHS I had that I just played over and over, and just utterly obsessed with Leonard Skinner. Um God, you know, we played Freebird at my uncle's funeral on a freaking cassette player, like a freaking, you know, like a boombox
Like,
at the grave, like
like it
the
is a good
long version.
song,
It
you
is.
know.
It's a
Yeah,
good song.
it's a good song,
Oh
but
man. Oh my God. Can you imagine like you went to go see like a loved one at a graveyard, and like you roll up to go spend a moment with your whoever, and then off in the distance of the graveyard you hear Freebird playing.
yeah, you hear, I'm as free
Oh my
as a
God.
bird now.
Mm. That's my family. That's my family.
Yeah, my dad was always said, you probably won't know this song whatsoever, but when he dies, he wants "Rain When I Die" by Alice in Chains played,
Hmm.
and that's about as heavy as grunge gets.
Sure.
And I was just like, okay.
God, I would love to just have a fifth of some really nice bourbon and just sit down on the dock with your dad one night. Just get him to drink a little bit and tell me some stories. Just get him
He'll
lubed up
do it.
just enough just to tell me some stories.
Yeah, he'll do it, but he likes messing with people too much.
Mm.
So like you have to come over like 2 or 3 times to get him like that because he just likes to mess with people and make you laugh. It's hard to get him to actually just talk and have a story time.
God, I bet he's got some stories about raising you.
No, I wasn't the bad kid. I weren't bad at all.
No, don't have to be bad. You were a kid. You did some near death stuff at some point.
Yeah, but I was also that kid that like I remember my cousins jumping the ditch, and whenever they landed on the other side of the ditch, it was mud, and they were wearing their brand new tennis shoes. Or I won't say brand new, but they were wearing their tennis shoes, and like the mud going halfway up their calf.
Mm.
And I was like, I'm not doing that because I'll get my shoes dirty, and then mom will be mad.
Mm-hmm. Good kid. Good kid. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
smoking literal grass clippings at your house
Off the lawnmower.
off the lawnmower.
Yeah, that was when I started going crazy, my
Mm.
little bit of crazy. Because that was the same night that we were drinking
Were we drinking? I don't think I was drinking
moonshine.
at that point.
What?
I don't know if I had anything to drink.
That was the same night me and my cousin stole a bottle of moonshine that my uncle made. We
What?
stole a mason jar from him, and we got drunk. That was the
No
second time I'd had
freaking
alcohol
way. I don't remember that.
because um Jonathan smoked the grass and he lost his voice.
That's right. Oh my god, man.
Yep.
Crazy stuff. Man, growing up in the country as a kid, like there ain't a whole lot to do.
Well, like he talks about his childhood and like shooting BB guns
Mm-hmm.
and catching crawdads or crawfish in the creek. That's literally what I did out of my ditch. I had a baby pool that I filled with water and put straw and hay in it, and I would catch crawfish and put them in it. I would have had like hundreds of them, but the birds kept coming and eating them.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that at the time, but that's why my population kept dwindling. But yeah,
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah,
yeah.
that's one thing that I found surprising about this book was realizing like, well, how close he grew up to us. In the grand scheme of things, like I go through where he grew up like at least twice a month. At least twice a month I'm going through the area that where he grew up. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like he is essentially a local boy, especially when you consider like when you first got some money and try to figure out a place to get, some decent real estate investment property he bought in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Like he is a local boy.
Yep.
And just like that coupled with just his personality and who he is, like he can come over to the cookout whenever, you know,
There'll be a cold one in the fridge. Like he seems like a kind of person you say something like that and he'll just show up. Yeah.
get a pot of coffee and some champagne and KFC. So, all right, Dave, I got you, man. I'll have a fresh pot brewed. I'll have the champagne, the KFC, and then
And a bottle of Crown when we get done with the KFC.
bottle crown. Gotta have the bottle crown, and he's got to do some fishing, man. Of course, he surfs, but he's got to do some fishing too. He has to.
I'm sure. I'm sure he hasn't been in a John boat, like a proper John boat. Like, so I duck hunt.
Mm-hmm.
I duck hunt. I do not duck hunt out of a proper John boat. Our proper John boat has a 2-stroke on the back of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to the boat landing and you put your boat in the water, it takes you 15 to 20 minutes to crank it.
Sure.
I'm sure he hasn't had that experience in a while.
Mm-mm.
Was there any chapters in particular that you kind of wanted to talk about?
No, not really, man. Like, Yeah, no, I really don't. It. I did a few shorts that I might post at some point of some of the more interesting things I heard, but like it's more of just a general experience. You know, that book was more of a general experience. There wasn't this one particular thing that I wanted to hammer down. It's like this is the book to read if you wanted to become best friends with a rock star, because that's what
Yeah,
this book is. Like
yeah.
you feel like Dave Grohl is an extended member of your family by the end of this book.
One of the chapters that he went over, and um, I was just starting to remember the points in my life, growing up. Tracy is a punk rocker, which is where
Hmm.
his it's not his cousin, but he calls her
Oh
cousin.
yeah, yep.
Comes downstairs and she's shaved head and the all the black and everything like that. And I remember um they're gonna come to the house and knock on my door and arrest me for saying this, but I think me and my cousin downloaded every Misfits song
Ooh.
off of Napster. No, LimeWire. Back then it was LimeWire. Um, and just being like, "What is this?" and amazed. Um, I remember there was a lot of bands that he said that I don't exactly remember the music that they made, but I'm like, it's so familiar. Um, like I remember like talking to my cousin, talking to AJ. If I were to like Gigi Allen, one of the
Mm-hmm.
last stories in the book, he talks about when he was in the middle of a tour and he had to fly home. It was the 20-hour trip, and
Yep.
then on the way back he got
Food
um
poisoning.
food poisoning, and he talks about he finally gets back to the next show, and there's a doctor just waiting for him, and he's like, take this pill, I'm gonna give you a liter of fluid and try to sleep for an hour before you go on stage. And he talks about he talks about how he's gonna try to go on stage and not Gigi Allen himself.
Yeah. I won't. If I remember correctly, he referred to the puddle that Gigi Allen created on stage, which was a pretty vivid image to have to relive. Gigi
Yeah,
Allen was something else, man.
because yeah, just would just jump in the mosh pit and just fight people. Like people would go buy tickets to go see him because they hated him and wanted to kill him, and he would just fight people.
It just like what an
Compl-
what an unusual character,
yeah,
unusual part of American culture. You know.
I remember with you in high school. Um, I can just remember it happened over like 2 or 3 weeks. Um, and me just finally being like, just be like, man, what's changed? What's going on with you? And you just like, I think you finally told me later, but it was you had started just wearing like black gym shorts and black shirts to school every day.
Hmm.
And I was finally just like, man, what's going on? And I think later on you told me that that was around the same time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you drove to Wilmington to see a He Is Legend show.
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I've done so much damage to my brain. I have a really tough time remembering stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember years later when we sat down, I remember you telling me that you drove to Wilmington to see a He Is Legend show and that it completely changed your life.
Oh my God. That just thinking back to like that era of my life, man, that all started with like, as shameful as it is to say, but it's the honest to God truth. That all started with a hot topic. Um, compilation album. There was some Hot Topic compilation album
I do
that I
remember
picked
that.
up. Yeah, dude. And He's Legend was on it. And like, not only like did I like the song that was on there, I think it was like I'm Hollywood, of course, or something like that, but
Right.
once I started like really getting into them, I looked them up. I was like, wait a minute, these guys are from freaking Wilmington? Like, oh my God. And yeah, like that was I didn't get big into like the punk scene or anything like that. Like I did the skateboarding. I played along with the pop punk thing. But like when it came to like that whole metalcore scene back in 2006, 2007, like that was life changing for me because then that opened up everything else. That opened it up to like revisit Pantera, and actually understand like who like bands like that really are and their influence and their musical genius and all that. I didn't get that from the same type of music that like Grohl listened to.
Right. And I went into Justin Andrews sat me down and was like, "You have to listen to this band," and it was Mudvayne.
Mm.
And of course, I had listened to him before, and I was like, "Man, I just don't like it." And at the time, like I was kind of listening to Slipknot and Cold Chamber, and I was just like, "Man, I just don't." And he was like, "Nah." He's like, "Listen to him. Like, listen to what the bassist is doing. Listen to what the guitarist is doing. Listen to his polyrhythms." And just when he said polyrhythms,
Mm-hmm.
things started clicking. I was like, "Oh, this is why I like Tool. This is why I like A Perfect Circle." And Billy Howardale, I don't care. He's still one of my favorite guitarists. When you hear that guitar, you're just like, oh yeah, that's Billy Howardale wrote that. At least I can pick up on it.
Yep.
He's Dave gets into it in the book. Every musician has that that feel,
Yep.
and I think, but but yeah, everything, and that's whenever I was like, oh, but yeah, a lot of Mudvayne.
I loved Mudvayne. That you just said something that's always bothered me, that feel thing, and I've always wondered, like, do I have a feel, or is it just I write the same song over and over again? Like, which is it? I'm not exactly sure. I know I've got a sound, but is it just because I have a one song that I just keep repackaging in different ways?
I mean, that's 100% me. I've let you're not going to remember, but I've let you listen to the one song that I wrote. And it's literally just a verse. And it could never come up with a chorus besides just doing power chords over it.
Man, you
Um,
don't even need a chorus, man. Like those type of
right.
riffs, and I do remember liking the riff that you sent me. Like those type of things, you can just build. It's like he says in the book, right? Like he looks at songs like Legos, basically, and it's just building a bigger and bigger sound and understanding the dynamics of music. Knowing when to push and pull to really get that emotion into the song. Like you can do that with one riff. And a
Yeah.
lot of really good songs are that, you know.
Yeah.
Now I want to write music. And that's one that's one of the biggest things I appreciate about this book is like wanting to like go back home and sit down and actually write a song, record a song again.
Yeah. He says it 2 or 3 times in the book, but 3 chords is all you need.
Yep.
Yep.
Hmm. Yeah, that's one. That's one I gotta get back into, man. It's been too long. It's been too long. That's something I'll do with the Otis Shuffles Jr. channel for sure. I'll slide some of that stuff in there. I'll get that going pretty soon. I think I'm getting close there. That's one thing about this book that I really like was thinking about the Otis channel. It's like what this book did is what I want to do with the OSJ stuff. I think the overarching goal is just like the Country Boy Book Club. Make the world a better place. I think OSJ will be a lot like that. But from a different angle. Like I want to be able to sit down and like get the type of story that Dave Grohl unpacks with Storyteller in a much more condensed version from all these different like successful people that are just people like you and me. Because that's it, right? Like you see the successful businessman, or you see the successful musician. Like you see these people that have pulled off these incredible things, and it's like, well, wait a minute, they're just people.
Right. I
Some
think
some people have better genes than others, but at the end of the day,
the last chapter of the book, which is like the bonus material, I think it's called like Entering Valhalla, where she ends up being in the actual VIP backstage party of the Beatles memorial
yep,
thing. And the guy comes up to him and he's like, "Hey, I hope you stay around a little bit longer because Paul McCartney wants to meet you."
yep,
And like, by no means am I like how many people right now going through life are there that don't think that they're successful at any point in time or anything like that, and they're just down. I actually just kind of had this happen to me. It wasn't anything like spectacular, but it was just an old friend. um we started going to a different church, and this guy just comes up to me, and it's been, sorry, I thought one of the chicks had jumped out of the box or something. But it's an old friend that I hadn't seen back when I was like 6 or 7. His family stayed at the same campground that we did through the summer. And then 6 or so years ago, when I was working in the emergency department, I would see him from time to time because he was part of the sheriff's police, something like that. I'm not entirely sure what he was, but I just hadn't seen him in a while. And like he came up to me, kind of deal.
mm-hmm.
And I don't, and it was just, and it like took me like 2 minutes to be like, "Oh crap, dude, what are you doing? Where you been?" But just like one of those moments to be like, "Oh shoot, it's nice to feel like," but then just imagine this Paul McCartney.
Right.
Yeah.
Can't imagine.
Or
Well,
just
yeah, I can.
yeah, just imagine a Dave Grohl wanting to meet you.
Yeah. No, I really
Yeah.
like. I genuinely think I could sit down with Dave Grohl and just not be starstruck. I think I could sit down with Dave Grohl and just have a drink with him and just chill after this book. It's like there's my boy. There's my boy Grohley over there.
Yeah. I think as far as like actually being starstruck and stuff like that, I don't know if there's anyone that I would. Of course, there would be people I would be excited to meet,
Yep.
but he kind of says this, flesh and bone, right? I'm a nurse, so I know everybody is just flesh and bone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I mean, it's just one of those things. I don't know, but yeah, just sit down and have a beer with him, and at the same time, he talks about it in the book, and that was like one of the times where I was so in the field and crying at the same time. Um, Talking about heartbreak, when Kurt died, and that's one of the things about if he wrote another book, I the chapter, because now Taylor's died.
Yep.
Um, if he wrote another book, that would be one of the chapters that I would that would be one of the reasons why I wouldn't want to listen to it. But I'm actually kind of curious where you would go with that because he talks about shoot, what was his other friend that passed?
Jimmy? Is it Jimmy?
I think that's right. Or was Jimmy his best friend that he did everything with? Anyway, um, yeah, and just building up those walls so you don't have to feel those, and just he's a freaking human being,
Yep.
and a lot of people do that.
I think this whole book might have been different if Taylor would have died before he wrote it, because like you can tell, death is a huge part of what he carries around with him. You know, like these figures that have passed away in his life or people that he focuses on and thinks about regularly. It would seem, just based on how frequently that it came up in the book.
Yeah.
You
Um, me and you had a friend that died,
which
and I
one?
don't. Yeah, and I was never really close to Josh, but I just
Mm.
watched. I had memories of him, of course. I still have memories of him, but I was in town when that happened, and I was reconnecting with some of the old friends, and I watched how devastated they were
Mm-hmm.
because of the circumstances and everything surrounding that. And yeah, I just remember going to my shitty job and going on break. And of course, I had the text message that it happened, and going on break and calling someone, and like I was ready to go. Um, it was one of the situations to where he possibly could have lived if the person that he was doing drugs with would have at least taken him to the hospital instead of leaving him in a room to die.
Mm.
Um,
I
do you
didn't even
remember
know
all
that.
that?
No, I don't. I don't know that I ever got the whole story, to be honest.
Yeah, he wanted to try heroin for the first time, and the person that he did heroin with instantly realized that um he was having a bad reaction to it, so they just left him in the apartment.
Oh wow,
So
didn't realize that.
we were kind of out for blood. Um, but I just like that sucked, and I can only imagine how much more it would have affected me if I had stayed close to Josh, because I remember um there's even guys that I talk to now. And every now and then they'll bring him up and they'll just be like, "Yeah, well, I just remember taking music appreciation with the guy,
Mm-hmm.
and um, he like the first day of class there was a piano, and just halfway through it, just raised his hand and was like, "Hey, can I try something on that?" And just gets up there and writes something that you think was composed by Mozart, basically, And he just like goes up there and just like runs the lick, 45 seconds, and then goes and sits back down. And the teacher is just like, who are you? But
I used to drive him crazy by playing funk. He hated funk, and I loved funk,
yeah,
which is so funny because like we both loved metal, but different types of metal.
yeah. Um, and it's funny that you said funk, and a lot of people don't know this. He doesn't. He hints at it. He says it, but if you're not paying attention, I feel like it's really easy to blow through. But a lot of Dave Grohl's drumming is funk, is disco.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, there's an interview of him where I can't remember who it is, but on one of his barbecues, he had some of the old one of the old funk guys over at his house, and he was like, "Just dude, I have to come clean. I have been ripping off your music since I started." And the guy's just like, "Yeah, I know. I've heard my riffs. I know."
That's awesome.
And yeah, I think it's funny.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, I can't wait to have Grohl over to the cookout. It's going to be so much fun.
We're just gonna get a cardboard cut out of it.
Oh, we should do that. We should do that. We should interview that cutout.
Yeah, interview. Yeah, yep.
He seems so down to earth. He might actually show up if we send him an invite.
I'm pretty sure he would do a podcast episode.
Well, now we got to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, yeah, that's God Almighty. I would love to just get parenting advice from him. You know, just like how has that gone since you wrote this book? You know, like let's unpack all of that. Like, what an interesting life that is, just in general, having daughters that can go on the road with you. You know, as a traveling musician, that are able to keep up with that.
Yeah, and they 100% when they were kids did not understand how important he was. There's interviews where he's like he's trying to play guitar during the middle of an interview, and his daughter comes up to him and like grabs his face and pulls him to the side, and you can hear her say, "You told me we were going to go to the pool," and he's just like, "Yeah, we are going to go to the pool, honey, but let me finish this guitar part real quick."
Incredible.
Yeah.
God, this is he's one of those people that you're just happy for. You know, like, thank God, like, it happened to you, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad you, Dave Grohl, have that story. That's a good one. Is there anything else in particular you want to talk about with the book, man? You want to leave a little mystery for the audience? What are we thinking here?
I mean, there's so much, because we're not going to cover it all. So the book is The Storyteller by Dave Grohl.
Mm-hmm.
And just go listen to it.
Yeah.
It's just such, I think it's more, I think everyone would be able to find parallels, and just to see that these people that we do put on like high pedestals and stuff in our life are just ordinary people. Yep. They go through the same things that we go through. Even like he tells a story about him and his girlfriend going to this French psychic, yeah. And like, I've seen ghosts my whole life. Anyway, never seen UFOs, but like that's where he kind of goes with that. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's a wonderful book.
It really is. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, definitely worth a read. I think Green Lights would be a good segue out of that one. Green Lights would be a really good segue out of that one. Go from a Virginia boy to an old Texas boy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do that. I'm down. Next.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. All right.
Sounds good.
Well, I think we're going to call it for a night, folk. We appreciate you hanging out with us. I hope if you've already read the book, we know it's a good one. If you haven't, it's definitely worth your time. You too can become best friends with Dave Grohl, with just investing a little bit of your time and money. So it's definitely worth it.
If I find a like a printout of a life-size Dave Grohl portrait, I'll find a way to like link it to you guys so y'all can have y'all's own Dave Grohl in your house.
Yeah. We'll see you at the cookout anyways. Whenever that happens, so. Yep. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will see y'all soon. You here?